Hey everyone, and welcome to another Sasquatch Theory podcast. In tonight's episode, we have Corey from Wautoma, Wisconsin, and he had a terrifying Bigfoot encounter. He was traveling on Highway C when he watched a massive figure walk out from his right to left, and he claims this could not have been any human being. As the huge creature crossed the road, it never once looked over at him. Corey decided to turn back around and investigate the area. On his way to look for any sign or evidence, he was confronted by a massive creature peeking out from behind a tree. Corey describes this encounter very vividly, and I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. Have you ever encountered a Bigfoot or a cryptid creature? If so, please get in touch with me sometime if you would like to log down your report here on Sasquatch Theory. If you guys can, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to comment down below. With all that being said, let's dive into Corey's terrifying Bigfoot encounter from the state of Wisconsin. Corey, welcome to Sasquatch Theory. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thanks, Miguel.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Corey, if you would, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and your experience from the very beginning.
Yeah, sure. No problem. Well, I was born in Minnesota, a town called Brainerd, north central Minnesota. Grew up there for the first 18 years of my life. And then I moved to Wisconsin in 1996 to a town called Stevens Point for college, and kind of just settled down and put down roots here in Wisconsin. So I've been here since 96 in central Wisconsin. 47 years old, 4 kids to keeping me busy, and just enjoying life in Wisconsin. I've always been kind of interested in paranormal and Bigfoot and those types of things, but never really thought I would encounter one until I did.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what were you doing when you had this experience? If you could put me in your shoes and explain everything in full detail, please.
Yeah, no problem, Miguel. So this occurrence happened back in mid-October of 2023. So about this time of year, 2 years ago. The weather that day was a bit different. Today I'm looking out my window and it's sunny and warm and bright. But in 2023, it was a really overcast, kind of drizzly, light rain on and off all day, mostly on. I actually cut out of work early and went golfing with a friend of mine in a town called Wautoma, again in the central part of Wisconsin. And so where I live is I'm about 40 minutes from Wautoma. I live 40 minutes to the west. So I was traveling east to go golf. And it's basically where I work in the Wautoma area. So I have kind of a hybrid job where it's partly from home, and then I have to go out and do some site visits and whatnot. So I'm pretty familiar with that area, and the route I take to and from there is pretty, I could pretty much do it with my eyes closed. It's familiar to me. And so we did just that. We went golfing for the second half of the day, and golfed through the rain because it was just such a light rain. We didn't want to cancel. We're like, let's just do this. We don't have many more days left, of this fall. So we kept our plans and golfed and got a little bit wet, but not drenched. And we got done golfing about 5 p.m. And my friend that I was golfing with lives in Wautoma, so I had to travel home, and he went home and jumped in my truck. I don't have this truck anymore, but it was a pretty new, I think it was a 2022 F-150, and I liked that vehicle a lot, and jumped in and just set the cruise once I got on the highway. So I was traveling west out of Wautoma on it's Highway C. It's not a real busy highway. It's kind of wooded. There's a couple of small little farms, a few lakes, and it's fairly hilly. There's 2 real sharp turns where you have to slow down just coming out of Wautoma. So I was probably 10, 12 miles out of town when I hit my cruise control. And like I said, so at this point it's getting closer to about 5:30, and with the overcast skies and the drizzle, it wasn't real bright. But I could still see clear. It wasn't pouring, so I had pretty clear vision out in front of me. And once I came around the final kind of real tight turn, that's when I could accelerate and hit my cruise. And radio's up, I'm just getting ready to make the drive I've done 1,000 times before. And so I get around this curve, and probably a few miles around the tight curve, I'm looking, and there's a slight upward. It's a long hill, not a sharp hill, but kind of more of a flat hill that you're climbing, but kind of at a low angle, right? And it's a real straight part of the highway, so I could see, as far as the eye can see, it was just straight pine trees on either side to the east and west, or north and south of me. And I look and I see a figure emerge on my right, so that would be the north side of the highway, and just kind of comes out of the pine trees and steps onto the shoulder, the dirt part of the shoulder. And I'm going 60 miles an hour, give or take, with the cruise on. And my first thought was, that guy is tall. And so I'm having to process quickly because I'm moving at it fast, and it's basically on the highway at this point. As I'm going towards it, my next thought after how tall this guy is boy, they're dressed in all dark. Like there was no break in shirt to pants to boots to hat, and nothing like you'd see a human, even a hunter, if they were camouflaged out. I didn't see any breaks in color. It was just really dark. And then when the figure started moving from right to left across the highway, and I'm probably, by the time it's moving across the highway, a quarter mile from it, and I'm getting closer by the second. And then my brain is just trying to process the height and the way it was moving so quickly because I was coming upon it so fast. And then my next thought was, this thing's strides are enormous, because from where I first saw it on the shoulder, one step got it to the median, the middle, kind of the dash marks in the middle of the road. And then I'm starting to notice how it's moving, right? And it was so, Miguel, its movements were so fluid that I'm thinking, humans don't walk like that. And it wasn't running, it wasn't walking slow, but it just was taking very long strides. And I was thinking how fluid they were. And it almost kind of glided. Like, I don't have a better word to describe its walking motion than gliding, because it moved effortlessly. It didn't, as far as I can tell, as I'm getting closer, I'm trying to look for more detail, and I'm like, that's not a human. There's no way. It's kind of hard to judge height, but just based on how high I'm sitting in my truck and where its head was, it was every bit of between 7 and 8 feet, I would guess. So again, I'm trying to process, who is this tall coming out of the woods that can move like that and glide like that? And then it's dawning on me, this is not a man. And then my next thought was to kind of look for, where did they come out? So I looked right, and I'm like, there was no driveway on the right. So, sometimes people grab their mail and scurry across the highway like that, but there was no break in the highway as far as driveways left or right. So it emerged from the woods on the right, and it was just crossing to a spot where there was only pines and woods on the left. By the time I got up to where I started slowing down at that point, because I want to look, I'm getting close to it. And at that point, when I started slowing down and I could still see it stepping down into the ditch on my left, the hair on the back of my neck all stood up. Like, it all hit me at once. I'm processing really fast. And it's just dawning on me, like, I know what this is. I got to get a better look. But by the time I could bring my vehicle to a stop, it was into the woods on my left. It disappeared. It stepped into the woods. And to kind of describe the woods, it's mostly pine, mixed in with some random oaks, and I don't know if there's maybe maples in there, but it's mostly pine with maybe one or two sporadic big oak trees in amongst the pines, kind of in that area where I was looking into. But the undergrowth wasn't super thick, so I could see in there pretty clearly, which is kind of unusual. A lot of Wisconsin woods and forests are really, the undergrowth is terrible, but here it was pretty clear. So I'm looking to my left, stop my vehicle. I'm in the lane, so I glanced in my rearview mirror to make sure no one was coming up on me at full speed, which there wasn't. So I paused with my foot on the brake. I'm looking into the left. I'm like, I should be able to see this thing. Like, it just stepped into there a half a second, maybe a second ago. I couldn't see anything moving in the woods. So then I kind of had a decision to make. Like, my first impulse was just go, and I'm like, no, man, I gotta like take a better look. I want to jump out of my vehicle and kind of peek in there from the ditch. And then the other thought that was going through my head was, boy, it's been wet. It's been misting and kind of drizzling all day. I want to see if I can find any evidence, like look in the shoulder for impressions, footprints, anything. I don't know. I just wanted more information, more evidence for my own mind. Because at this point, I'm like, am I going crazy? Like, what was that? So what I did was I'm in the right-hand lane, westbound. I have to get out of the highway to stop and get out. So I pull my truck. I did a U-turn in the highway, still looking. Nobody's coming either way. And I drive down into the ditch. So now I'm facing back east, but right at the spot where I saw it step into the woods. And so I park. I throw it in park, turn it off. And then I was open my door and I was just going to jump out. And I'm like we talked about a little bit before we started here, Miguel. I'm a bow hunter and avid hiker. I like to be outside, and I always keep a firearm, a pistol in my console. Just when I go hiking or bow hunting, I usually just put it on my hip. I have a concealed carry. So something in the back of my head is like, just grab your pistol just in case and bring it. And I didn't really give it much thought. It was like 1 second decision, just grabbed it. It's a SIG 40, loaded up with some plus P rounds, so it's got some pop to it. But never in my thought process was like, hey, I'm going to go pursue this thing and now I'm armed. It wasn't. It was more of like cautionary. Like I just was a little nervous. So I figured I'd prefer to have it than not. So the other piece of this too is I was golfing, and I wasn't wearing jeans, nothing, no heavy clothing, like a polo and khakis. And so I wasn't really equipped to go walking through the woods. There's thorns and stuff in there, but I didn't attach. So the pistol's in a holster, right? Just kind of a cheap, like a Blackhawk nylon holster. But I didn't take the time to thread my belt through and strap up. I just put it in my khakis pocket with the holster on it, just so I had it by me. But it wasn't really like a quick draw situation that I was going to be able to grab it, but it was with me. So then I had the courage. I'm like, I'm going to step into the woods and just kind of take a few feet, step in there a few feet and look around. And so first thing I did before I stepped in the woods was just look down where I thought it crossed, and I was kind of looking for impressions. And surprisingly, I didn't see any. I thought maybe I would see something like in the gravel part of the shoulder. For all I know, it probably cleared the gravel with its strides, but for whatever reason, I didn't find any impressions. So that's kind of what made me go further in. Just kind of my head's down. I'm looking at the ground for disturbances, right? Because when I stopped my truck, I really didn't. I looked into the woods, but I didn't see anything. So I'm like, at this point, I'm just looking down at the ground for footprints, impressions, disturbances. And I walked that way for probably 10, 12 feet into the woods, kind of looking down, glancing up every now and then, but not more with my head to the ground. And just at that moment, I kind of like got in there 10 to 12 feet. And then again, for the second time, the hair on the back of my neck went up. And I'm like, if you spend time in the woods, typically when that happens to you or you feel that weird sense, you go on high alert, right? Because you're like, something's around, something predatory. I don't know. You just get that sense. And I got it a second time. So then I really stopped looking at the ground. I stopped moving forward and walking. So I was quiet. And I looked kind of to my right a little bit. And then I started panning left. And it was either an oak or a maple. I didn't really look too closely at the tree, but it was one of the bigger trees, a non-pine. And right away, like my eyes caught something wrong with that tree situation. So I stopped and I looked closer, and I could see a head, a big black head, and one eye, one dark eye. I didn't see any whites. I just saw like either a brown or a black eye looking out at me from behind the tree. And it would have been leaning to its left, but my right, that side of the tree. And I couldn't see any body, just this eye, because the tree was pretty wide, probably 3-4 feet wide. And I'm like, Miguel, I was frozen in fear. Like at that point, I didn't really know what I was looking at, but yet I did. And I didn't know what to do as far as retreat, yell, scream, pull my weapon out of my pants. So I just kind of locked its one eyeball with my eyes, and we were looking at each other. And at that point, I had to make a decision, right? I'm like, I'm not pulling my firearm at this point. I'm going to retreat. Like in my mind, I processed like I'm just going to start backing up slowly to get more distance, because it was probably another 10, 12 feet from me, that tree that it was behind. So I was not very far. I was terrified. So I'm like, I got to put more distance between me and this, let's call it what it is now, a Bigfoot. So I made the decision to take a step back. But as I did, I kind of instinctively reached my right hand into my right pocket, and I unsnapped, because the holster I use it's a cheap holster. It just has a strap that goes across and it snaps on. And I was like, geez, if this thing, because I'm thinking if this thing comes out from behind that tree and charges me, I want to have this weapon at least out and be able to be pulled from its holster quicker. So in my pocket, I unsnapped it while I was taking my first like half step backwards. And as soon as anybody was, knows buttons and snaps, it makes an audible pop, right? So pop when it came undone. And the second that sound was audible to my ears, the Bigfoot growled from behind the tree. And it wasn't like a loud roar. You hear a lot of people's accounts of, like infrasound, or that moves your chest, like you can feel it in your chest. It was more of a low, like if you could picture an angry dog that you're kind of in trouble with, that does the low kind of warning growl, like really low. It sounded like that, like a big dog, like a ferocious dog, like a guard dog, kind of like a low growl. And I'm like, oh crap. Like, I don't know if it was the noise or if somehow it knew like I had a weapon and it was warning me not to pull it. I can only theorize on that, but for whatever reason at that moment it growled, and then it leaned out further, and at that point I could see its left arm, left arm dangling from behind the tree, and like his left hip. So I could see maybe a fourth of his left side. And by the way, I'm looking up at this thing, so it was every bit of probably short of 8 feet, but between 7 and 8. Even when I was getting some distance, so when I took another step back, I'm kind of having to crank my head to look up at it. And at that point, it was everything I could do not to turn around and just run. But everything I've learned about being in the woods and things that can kill you is don't turn your back on them, right? It's like a mountain lion or a big cat. So that was kind of in my brain, like don't turn your back, don't run. So I really had to like overcome that urge to turn and run to my truck, but I didn't. But I did pick up the pace. So then I started slowly backing away. The problem is it, again, the undergrowth wasn't terribly thick, but there's still branches and weeds and thorns. And so I kind of had to glance back every now and then because I did not want to fall and end up on my back and being even more vulnerable. So I'm kind of trying to glance behind me, take a step, look at it. It only did the one growl. Nothing else before that or after that. And as I backed away and I got out of the tree, so I cleared the trees and got to the ditch where my truck was. At one point when I looked back at the ground and then I looked up, I couldn't see it anymore. So I don't know if it leaned back behind the tree to obscure itself all the way or what, or if it went behind the tree and left. I don't know, because I couldn't see it once I got out to the ditch where my truck was. And at that point, once I didn't see it, I'm in the clear, basically out of the woods. I jumped in my truck. I went in the passenger side because I didn't want to go around. I jumped in my passenger side, climbed over my console, put it in drive. I hit the gas so hard it left, it sprayed debris like rocks and grass and dirt. And I peeled up out of the ditch and just floored it. And, it was just a lot to process. And so by the time I get in my truck, I'm like, then you can kind of start processing like, holy moly. Because at the time when I'm standing there with it, it's more like you're more safety focused. Right now, it's at the point I'm driving home. I'm like, I had goosebumps on my arms the whole way home. I didn't know who to tell first. I was just like, what, all these things going through my head. Like, half the people don't believe you when you tell these things. So it's just like, I just had to kind of process it driving home and sit on it. And I told my girlfriend right away. She was the first person I told because she's pretty open-minded. And, she believes there's things out there, but she doesn't listen to, the podcasts and stuff like I do. But I knew she would take me seriously and I could trust her and not mock me or laugh or say you're crazy. She's the first person I went to. And yeah, she she believed me. She's like, that's crazy. Like, you shouldn't have got out, scolding me. You shouldn't have got out of your truck, that kind of thing. But man, I know I said a lot quickly, but that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
All right, Corey, I appreciate you for sharing that with me. And it certainly sounds like a spooky Bigfoot encounter. So you were heading northwest from Wautoma. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Wautoma. I
Wautoma.
was headed towards my house would be pretty much straight west, not so much northwest.
Okay. So that's like a mixture of forest and farmland, correct?
Yeah, it's mostly forest. Like I said, I think there's two little lakes. So you got your little cabins around the lake that would have been before where the sighting happened. But the farms aren't real like big, sprawling, open farms. There's maybe two on that stretch where I was that I would call them more like hobby farms. In fact, the closest residence to where this happened when I got in my truck, there's a little farm with a red barn that's tucked back in the woods with several cows, but it's not like sprawling open fields. It's all woods right there.
Yeah, and it makes sense that this creature was hanging out in the pine trees. Do you think you caught it off guard or it purposely crossed the road right when you were driving past that area?
That is a great question. I've pondered it every day since, and I can only guess, but I'm glad you asked it because I've heard people on other podcasts, or I don't know, people who have a lot of experience, kind of tracking Bigfoot or looking for it, will literally tell you that you're not going to see them unless they want to be seen or they want you to see it. What's intriguing to me, Miguel, is that I didn't take my eyes off it. I tried not to blink from the first time I saw it till the end. Before I got out of my truck, I didn't see him. I'm going to call it a him because I just got a male sense, kind of like an alpha male sense. I didn't see any indications, but he never looked to his left at me coming at him at 60 miles an hour. His head was forward and he was just taking long strides. So it wasn't like, hey, he's looking, there's a car coming. He was walking swiftly to not get hit. He just went forward. Now, the other part of that question too is like in the woods, I really, this part bugs me because so when I park my truck and I get out and it's quiet, I'm quiet. I didn't hear any noise, right? I didn't hear any footsteps, no rustling. So what I can't figure out is if he stopped behind that tree, maybe when he heard my engine slowing down and stopping, or if he had gone a further distance away and come back towards me to that tree. I'll never know. But that kind of bothers me, the fact that he was there and I was so unknowing, right? Like I didn't know it was there until the last minute. And so the thought of him maybe coming back towards me and then waiting for me as I enter the woods kind of spooks me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to say if the creature took off and came back or if he was there the whole time. I would think that he was there the whole time. He just crossed the highway and or the road and went into the woods and was just hanging out. He wasn't expecting you to come back, and I think when that happened, it kind of threw him off. But yeah, it definitely sounds like these creatures, these beings, whatever you want to call them, know what a firearm is because when you reach towards it, it definitely got territorial. And yeah, I mean, they watch hunters, they see what we do out in the woods, so I have no doubt that these things know what a firearm is.
I agree. And based on the timing, I mean, the sound and then the growl, there was no gap. So I agree with you. I took it, and now I take it especially as a warning, like kind of a don't do it, like don't do it. That's what I take from it. Not that this little tiny popping sound irritated it. That really doesn't make sense. Everything in my mind makes sense is like, don't do it. And then the funny part about it is all thoughts of bringing the pistol out of my pants. Like at that point, it was off the table for me. Like I'm like, I am outgunned here. I mean, I could have, you know, a 6.5 Creedmoor AR-10 out here, and I still wouldn't like my odds of having to fire on this thing and that'd be a good decision. I guess if it grabbed me, of course, but at that point, in my mind is like, no, keep that thing in your pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think would have happened if you would had stayed in the area?
Um, without the firearm coming out of my pocket, or just in general.
Just in general, like if you never left, like if you walked up to the creature.
Man, in my wildest imagination, I cannot conceive of what would have happened. I mean, I didn't feel threatened until, like I said, the snap and the growl. Like let's say I stood there and, or even took a step towards it. I think the growls would have gotten to the point where you hear a lot of people report them, where it actually kind of hurts or makes you sick or vibrates your body. I think I would have got 1,000 times, more of a warning. But who knows? I mean, if I wanted to be really stupid or challenge it, pull out the gun, point it at it, I really don't think good things would come from that. Now, I know a lot of people say like, there's no evidence anybody's ever been hurt or killed by a Bigfoot. I don't want to. I wouldn't want to roll those dice.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like asking, what do you think would have happened if you would have walked up to the grizzly bear?
Right. Yeah. Probably not good, but sometimes people get away with it. But
Hmm.
it's a Russian roulette. Like I don't want to play. And honestly, like now that I've had 2 years to process it, I kind of feel lucky that it let me skate, I guess, because I'm dead to rights. Like just the here's the other thing too. Like based, I should back up. When it was crossing the highway, so I'm looking at it. What would you call it? I'm looking at its left side, so I can't really see shoulder width or any of that. But the sense I got was, if you could imagine like an NBA center that's in perfect, like it wasn't bulky or thick. It seemed really tall and athletic. Like, so you hear a lot of people say like its shoulders were like 4 feet wide. I can't gauge its shoulders 'cause I never got a clear, but it just seemed really tall and athletic to me, just by the way it moved, and the strides were probably, so it cleared the highway in 3 strides. I counted them in my head. I watched it. 3 strides. I don't know how wide the highway is, but that's the tallest, smoothest moving humans on earth. I don't think could do it walking in 3 strides. Not even close. Maybe if you ran and triple jumped or something like that, somebody could. So it was a really tall, strong, fit looking Bigfoot.
Yeah, absolutely. Why do you think the creature never looked over at you? Do you think there were others that previously crossed the road before you got to that area?
Oh, I never thought about that. I don't. I think my senses. Of course I don't know. It felt like it was alone, but maybe. The other thing is I just feel like it just seems so confident. Like it just, the way it glides and strides, it just kind of seemed like unfazed by an F-150 coming at it. And again, it was so far off when I first saw it. Maybe it just didn't. It knew it had time to get across, but it never changed its pace. Right? Didn't go fast to slow, slow to fast. Same stride the whole way through. So it almost like exuded like kind of confidence, if not like, I don't know if arrogance is the right word, but just unfazed by a vehicle moving.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my theory that these beings like to breed during the fall time, particularly in October. So I feel like they get more aggressive that
Ah,
time of year. Of course, I don't know. That's just my suspicion because I had an encounter with a juvenile in July, right after the springtime in the early summer. Yeah, it was in July. And I don't know. That was my theory. It was like, man, this thing can't be more than a couple months old, if not a couple years old, possibly. But my theory was that the mother had it in the springtime, so that would mean that they were breeding in the fall. But I don't know. I'm just speculating. But I have noticed intense Bigfoot experiences during the fall. Like they get really aggressive, to like similar to like bucks, like when they just start sparring, they just get this attitude like, I don't care, I'm going to cross the road and I don't care that anyone's there because I'm following a doe.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Boy, that's really interesting you say that. I agree. I mean, again, probably no way to prove it, but that does make a lot of sense. And if you look at, like you said, Buck's behavior in rut, they don't. I've had them run. I've always kind of lived outside of town, not in cities, and I had a buck run by me in my yard one time with this, like a big one, like a 12 pointer, with its nose down 5 feet from me doing something in the yard, and it didn't even pay me any attention. Like, didn't care I was there. But all other times of the year, that buck wouldn't come within 100 yards of me outside of my yard.
Yes, exactly. And I feel like from your description, this was the behavior, the attitude of the Sasquatch. Like, I don't care if someone's driving down the road, I'm going to cross it anyways.
hmm I agree. Yeah, I find it odd it never looked at left at me, but yeah, it's kind of seemed on a mission to where it was coming from or going to, and I kind of, got his curiosity enough to stop behind that tree and say, hey, take a peek and see what I was doing. But yeah, who knows? I wish I would have known where he was headed. I've been back down that road before and kind of stopped and trying to find the exact spot, and I know pretty close to where it is. And looking at that farm with some smaller animals, like I think it would have been. You can kind of see it through the trees if it's not heavy foliage. So spring and fall, you can see this farm better. Um, I think where it was going was to the back side of that farm property. So, who knows? Maybe it's coincidence it was just passing there, or it had some interest in that small farm. Could be, either way, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I've taken reports where people claim a Sasquatch was crossing the road right before it got dark, and they say it was heading from the big woods to a farm property. So it makes me wonder if they're like looking for deer, turkey, or livestock.
Yeah, I agree. It's certainly possible. Or that's just an area he knows where if he needs a quick meal, again, I'll just theory, but it's interesting that of all the places he could be going in that area, it was pretty close to a red barn tucked in the woods.
Yeah. And this creature glided across the road. Can you describe that more? Was it like Michael Jackson doing the moonwalk, or was it like something supernatural, or just fluently?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because that is what sticks out in my mind the most, even more than how it growled at me, is how it moved. Because yeah, not Michael Jackson moonwalk because that's so like showy and intentional. It almost seemed like if it was on a cloud of air, or it just so light, even though this is a massive tall creature, it just seemed like so effortless, like almost if its feet weren't touching the ground and it could just walk pushing off of the air an inch off the ground, kind of like just slide. I don't know. Yeah, unbelievably smooth. And that's kind of where my mind was going, because I go to a lot of sports, football, pro basketball, and it's like if you watch a world class athlete move, this blew it away. I've never seen anybody that could stride like that with such grace, yet I don't mass. It defies physics in my mind. I don't know that it was supernatural. I think it was actually walking, but the way it moved wasn't human. There is no human that could move that way. And it wasn't, there was no weird, you see the Patty video and she kind of swinging her arm and kind of lumbering. It was not like that. It was more of a graceful glide through the air.
Yeah, that's incredible. And how could you describe the grunt that you heard, the vocalization that it made? Was it like a bear, like a whitetail?
Like a guard dog. So if you could imagine, I don't know, what's like a cane corso, or those big dogs you do not want to mess with if they're mad, like a big dog. But it didn't blast it at me. It was almost, I don't want to say inaudible, but it was on the very low end spectrum of like audibility, where it didn't rumble my clothes, it didn't crack, or it just was a real low, like I almost had to like, it was probably about 3 seconds long, 2 to 3, 4 at the most. So I kind of leaned in. I'm like, oh, like it can just kind of you. I had a big black lab growl at me one time doing a home visit, and that dog meant us ill will. It was me and another guy, and it just came at us, and it sounded like a big dog, like saying, "Don't advance onto this property." Like I can't do it because my voice doesn't go that low. But more of like kind of a warning, like no further, don't advance, don't come to this property, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I definitely understand what you mean. And man, I can't imagine how you felt when you laid eyes on this creature. What color was it? Do you remember?
Dark jet black. There was no brown, there was no red, no silver, no gray, jet black. Almost. I mean, again, I didn't. I only saw about a quarter of its left side, but when it leaned out towards the end before I got out of there, it was jet black and it looked almost shiny, like real. I didn't see any like burrs or like mangy looking spots. It was a real dark, kind of pretty auburn black, real shiny. Just looked healthy, like shiny hair.
Yeah. And could you see any of the features on the creature as far as what it looked like when it crossed the road or when you saw it behind the tree?
Yeah, I couldn't. I mean, I could. Okay, so when it crossed the road, definitely an abnormally large head. Couldn't tell shoulder width because of the angle, and then long. The legs were so long. Um, Humans aren't. I mean, the legs were up. It had a long torso too, but what stood out at me is how long the legs were, and I think that feeds into how it walked so smoothly because they were, just one stride and then boom, he was 4 feet more over, like very long legs. When I was up closer and it was behind the tree, like I said, I couldn't see much. I couldn't see its mouth, but I saw his eye, and like I said, the eye was really big, um, bigger than a walnut, maybe even. But dark. The eyes were dark. So I kind of was looking for like color or the whites of the eyes, and I just saw like brownness and blackness in that one eye. The one I saw, the left arm, very long. Yep, to the knee, right around the knee length, where the knee should be, I guess. Very long arm.
Yeah. And what time of day did this encounter happen?
It was right around 5:30 p.m.
Okay. So getting dark. You said it was an overcast day, kind of drizzly.
Yep, yep. And so it was darker than it should have been. I mean, that time of year, sunset probably a little later, but it felt closer to sunset just because it was so overcast and there was no sun peeking through. So yeah, right around 5:30. Because when I got in my truck and got back on the highway, I looked at the clock and it was like 5:34.
Yeah. Could you smell anything when this creature grunted at you?
I did not smell anything, surprisingly. And being that I was 10, 12, no more than 15 feet away from it, I think I would have, but I did not smell a thing besides, woods and trees.
Mm. And the feeling that you got like something was off when you stepped into the woods, do you think that was purely due to the fear of seeing the creature prior to that? Or do you think maybe it produced some sort of infrasound? Because I know you said you didn't get that feeling when it grunted, but do you think that feeling was infrasound? Because I heard it can produce like intense fear, anxiety, things like that.
It's possible. I would call it like my spidey sense, and something set off my spidey sense, whether yeah, whether it was emitting anything that's basically sub-audible possible, or I maybe sensed like predator presence. Like, and I'm not saying it was trying to be a predator towards me, but let's face it, if something can kill you with ease, it's a predator to a human, right? So I think, yeah, something happened, and there was no, like, I didn't hear like a twig break or a scuffle against the tree. It was nothing audible that, normally like a squirrel makes a noise. You look, it was nothing, there was nothing that drew me to it audibly, but I just sensed it. And based on what I just saw on the highway, it could only be one thing, right? Like if I was out bow hunting and then I got that sense, like, once in a while there's mountain lions around here, super rare, but I would assume, yeah, like something's watching you. So it was like that something's watching me feeling.
Yeah, that's understandable. And looking back on your life, do you recall any other strange experiences while you've been out in the woods or bow hunting? Anything that you can think of?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. I don't know if you want me to get into this because it's not Bigfoot related, but probably, geez, 2 months later, month and a half. It was late November. My girlfriend and I had something terrifying right outside my front deck in the woods. If you want me to talk about it, I can. I don't. have a ton, like it's not as detailed as that story, but there was definitely something there because we got photos of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hear about it.
Yeah, Miguel. So, and again, like I don't know if like my mind's eye was open because of this, or it's just a second totally unrelated thing, but it happened more to my girlfriend than I. So this is late November. It's Wisconsin, it's dark by 5 p.m., even a little bit before, and we were getting ready to go to her daughter's basketball game out of town. So I had got done with work. I think I was just changing clothes, getting ready. I hear her pull up. No big deal. We do this all the time, right? She just walks in and she left the car running because she was going to grab me and I was going to jump in and go. And I don't know. I was just putting on some deodorant or cologne or something because she comes in. She was, "You ready?" I said, "Yep, almost." She was, "Okay, we got to," because it's a quick turnaround time to get to these JV games. They start so early. She goes, "I'm going to go back out in the car. I'll drive. You want to drive home?" I'm like, "Good." So she went out and she was getting back in the vehicle. I was no more than 5 seconds behind her, maybe three. I think I was actually putting my shoes on and my phone starts ringing and it's her. And my driveway is literally 10 feet from my front porch where I'm standing getting my shoes on inside the door. And I'm like, what? Like I'm on my way out. Like, what's going on? And I can just hear fear in her voice. She's like, "Get out here now." I'm like, "What's going on?" Like now I'm pausing. Like, what? Trying to get more information. She goes, "I'm in the back seat. Just get out here." I'm looking out the window. I'm like, "What? Are you playing a prank on me? Like, what is going on?" She goes, "There's something in the woods." And so I step out, got my shoes on, step out on the porch, and I see her. She's laying across the back seat of her small SUV, and she cracked the window about 4 inches on the closest side she was by. And she's got her phone sticking out the window, and she's kind of panning it around towards the woods that are in front of my house. So now I'm immediately looking towards the woods. She's like, "Something's out there. Like, be careful." I'm like, so I'm looking. Of course, I'm a dude, right? You got to be tough. Your girl's in distress. So I go kind of walking across the cement driveway pad towards where she's looking and trying to point her camera. And she's like, "Don't go over there." I'm like, "Well, I don't see anything." And then she kind of sat up and I'm like looking and I walked all the way right up to the edge of the woods where she was kind of pointing at. I'm like, "I don't see or hear anything. I don't know what you're talking about." So I go get in and she goes, "I'm not getting out." She goes, "You're driving and I'm right in the back seat to the game." I'm like, "Okay." Because she didn't want to step out to come around just 2 feet to the front door, passenger door. I'm like, "Okay, fine, I'll drive." And then she's like, so she brings up she was video recording when she had her phone out the window and she's looking back on it. And I'm like, "What?" No, I'm just driving, trying to get more information. Like, "What did you hear? What did you see?" Well, something growled, and it was a growl I cannot describe. I've never heard in my life before. I don't know what it was, but it was loud. And she actually said kind of she could feel the rumble because she wasn't quite in the vehicle yet when she heard it. And then she's looking through her video because it was probably like 2 minutes long, and she's looking, and then she's like, "See here, here." She holds it. Of course, I'm trying to drive and look at her phone, which is not safe, but you can clearly see two large glowing eyes in her video, and it's dark, so you can't see a whole lot. You can kind of see a silhouette. It looked quadruped. It looked like something on all fours. And at the first time I'm looking at the video, you can see one big eye, but then it clearly turns its head, and you can see them both because it's looking back at her in the vehicle. And she said that's about when it growled, when I could see that eye shine. And granted, the headlights are not pointed at this animal. The way the vehicle was pulled in, they were pointed towards the house. This creature would have been more back and to her right, to the vehicle's right. So there was no light shining to reflect that I can think of. I mean, our house windows probably wouldn't do that. The light's coming out from there. So I'm like, okay, this is crazy. You did get something. There's something there. Then we got to the basketball game, and then I'm like, then I could park and actually look at it better. And I'm like, I didn't want to go in. I'm like looking at this video, and she's like, "See, it's there." I'm like, "Yeah, there's something there." And what I did is I just went into her settings and I brought the tint up a little bit so it wasn't quite so dark because it's just a lot of blackness in these two glowing eyes. And then when I had a little more gray and a little lighter tint, I can see the outline of definitely, it looks, Miguel, to me, like a huge feline cat. But I'm talking like, from what I can tell, because I know that area well, like I can look out my window right now and see that space where it was in the woods. I see it every day. I know kind of the dimensions of where the tree gaps are, where there's this and that out there. And it's filling a gap that's really long. Like, and I can see when I brought that tin up, it looks like a sleek feline body. I can kind of see where a head would be. And then I think where I freeze framed and I took like a screenshot, you can see one of the glowing eyes because I wanted to get that side view of it screenshotted. And I do have it still. And it's long. This thing is, I would have had to guess 7 to 8 feet long. Now, nothing more I could do, right? We got the video. She spooked. She wouldn't even come out to my house for like a week. I had to walk her in and out of my driveway because she was so terrified. And I went out there. I did put a trail camera up, I think 2 nights later, maybe the next night. Didn't get anything for about 3 nights. So then I looked at the still shot I screenshotted because I want to try to get the dimensions, like length. And I'm like, well, I can see this little bush and I can see this tree that it's between, a little small pine, nothing big. And that's the gap where it is. You can clearly see the outline of it. And I measured with a tape measure. I had to kind of hook it onto the one tree and then pull it. And it's the gap where this thing is 8 feet, and it filled the whole entire gap. And to me, it's just like, it's really coincidental that it was about a month and a half after my Bigfoot encounter. And honestly, like, I've showed the video and the screenshot where I brought up the tint to several people, some of my friends who are bow hunters. No, everybody agrees there's something there, but they're always like, well, mountain lion crept in on you guys. You know, they're not unheard of in Wisconsin. I'm like, I just have a hard time with that because an 8-foot long mountain lion and here's the other thing, the reflection was white. It was like there was no color. It wasn't amber, red. It's a white eye shine, bright white. But they're even eye shaped. I mean, so there's no color in them. And I'm like, I don't know that a mountain lion, it doesn't fit. Like, I've had an encounter with a mountain lion in Canada once, and it's much different. They don't usually creep in by someone's driveway with a running vehicle, stand there and growl. Like, they're a little more elusive. Now, I'm not a animal biologist. Could it be? Yeah, but the size seems unheard of for a central Wisconsin potential mountain lion. I don't believe a lot of them are that big and that bold. So that's kind of where I'm at with that one.
Yeah, that definitely is spooky. And I wonder what it was. I mean, I don't know if it's a coincidence because you had this encounter 2 months before that. And a lot of people talk about the hitchhiker effect with the Sasquatch or being marked or tagged by them. And that pretty much means they'll follow you to different areas. And it doesn't seem normal or possible, almost like it's supernatural. But yeah, the fact that it growled at her, it had like these silver white looking eyes, that's spooky.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard reports in Missouri where these creatures have like white glowing eyes. It sounds like Bigfoot, but also Michigan has a huge number of dogman sightings. I'm not saying that's what it was, but
right,
that's always something to consider. And also Bigfoot can traverse on all fours. I think mainly they're on all fours, and when they get bigger, they can walk on 2 feet, but you never know.
yeah, that's interesting. You know, all those. Well, you know what? Honestly, yeah, the thought of maybe Dogman on all fours it crossed my mind, and it's just I don't have enough detail in that screenshot to. You can see something's there with a long body, but honestly, I didn't give a lot of thought, Miguel, to a Bigfoot on all fours, and uh, possible. You know, again, without having that much definition and being able to see this exact true shape, maybe what my eyes are seeing that looks more feline could be a quadruped Bigfoot. It's possible. It's just really weird. It was so close to my sighting. And honestly, like, you can't really say like she was seeing things because she didn't see anything with her own eyes. She heard a growl that scared her that was unlike anything she's heard. She dives into the vehicle, sticks her phone out, and catches something. It wasn't like, oh, you misidentified, you know, there's something there. And then I actually went and looked up like mountain lion growl sounds, you know, online and played them for her. And I just tried to find the most like pissed off mountain lion growl I could find that was audio recorded. I'm like, did it sound like this? She was kind of, but she thought the mountain lion that I played for her that, you know, somebody else recorded was a little too high pitched. She said it's similar in like how it hit low to high, but it stayed in a lower frequency is what she thought. And she was, and I'm convinced, I think it doesn't seem, it just seems, I don't know. It doesn't really, it kind of defies how animals behave and just being there. And then, but here's the other question I have too in my own mind. She was still recording. It had just happened within seconds of me being out there. Once I got through my door, I walked right to the edge of the woods. Like, wouldn't I have heard something moving away from us then? Because it wasn't there when I got there. I should have heard. It's pretty thick. You wouldn't just go through there without making a noise. It's like dead pines kind of laying crisscross. There is no way that thing could have got shot through there without me hearing it as soon as I stepped out of the house. That's the other thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like the creature was there the entire time, even when you went out to investigate it. Did you ever step into the woods or did you just leave it be?
I stepped to the edge of the woods, not into the woods. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man. I'm glad you didn't. And it could be that same creature that you encountered. I mean, if there is a supernatural thing behind them, I feel like it would follow you. And the Native Americans say that these things are physical creatures and they're also supernatural. So I feel like it's possible. I'm sure other people listening would think it's something entirely different, but this is pretty close to where you had that sighting too. So it's not too far out there.
Correct, Miguel. That would probably be exactly because I was about a third of the way home, somewhere in there, maybe a quarter of the way home. So from my house to where my Bigfoot encounter happened would be no more than 30 minutes. Like, so 30 miles, 30 minutes, somewhere in there. I mean, you got to think that would be nothing for, a Bigfoot to cover that kind of ground. If they can mark you, it could be here. That's not even far at all.
No, yeah, for sure. And I wonder why it was just sitting there. Like maybe it growled at her because you pursued it in the woods, and it's like, I'm going to show you.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, not really funny, but another little twist. My girlfriend is Native American, and so like you said, her mind is pretty open to a lot of this stuff, in this realm. And I think even more so now that that happened to her. But I tried talking with her too. I even brought it up a few weeks ago. Like, gosh, what was that? And I, in my mind, I just don't see how it could have been random, right? So a sighting happens to me, a close encounter, and then to her within a 90-day time frame. It just doesn't seem haphazard or random to me. But she didn't really want to talk about it. It's kind of like it terrifies her. She believes in all that stuff. She doesn't want it messed with. So she kind of shuts down those conversations, but doesn't mean I'm not kind of wondering about them still to this day.
Yeah, absolutely. The Native Americans say to never talk about them. And I mean, I can understand her reasoning behind that. And it seems like when you do talk about it, it conjures this stuff up and it brings them around.
I agree. Yeah, you got to be open minded about it. It's just a lot of it doesn't make sense with, our laws of physics and biology and animal. What we know. So much of it that happens is just outside of the realms of what makes sense, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that Bigfoot encounter will always be on your mind, especially when you're out there in the woods bow hunting. Like, what if they come back, or what if I run into another one? Does that ever cross your mind?
Yeah, it does. And honestly, the only place I really bow hunted now is we talked about this before, but north central Minnesota. My family has property there, so I travel a long way. I haven't really bow hunted locally since then. And honestly, I used to, because I can drive 5 miles from my house and there's a lot of like timber, paper companies that grow timber out here that they'll let you hunt on. They'll post it as, I forget what they deem it, but they get tax breaks because they open it to the public and let you hunt on it. So I can hunt anywhere around here. And I'm kind of wondering subconsciously if I haven't been in this area because of what happened, because it is in the back of my mind. And I mean, I'm not scared. Like, I'll still hike. I always hike with a pistol. It's just what I do. More so even, I mean, there's crazy people everywhere, right? I've had some weird human encounters in the woods. Like you just don't want to get caught with your pants down. So that's my theory, but I have hunted locally less, and it could be subconsciously in part because of what I encountered, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you heard of any encounters from locals in the area? Has anyone else mentioned seeing these things pretty close to your sighting area?
Um, no, that's yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because the answer is no. I honestly I know a lot of people that do hunt and get out around here, into the woods, and if they have, they haven't reported it or talked about it. I did report that first encounter to the BFRO, and Mr. Moneymaker, is it Matt or Chris? Matt Moneymaker. He called me. He was very interested in it. We didn't do like a recorded anything. He just wanted the details. But like you, he said, with the location of that farm and the trees and stuff, he said that probably is a crossing point, or he's familiar with that area. He had a lot of theories, and but no, I don't. That's kind of what shocked me too so much about all this is I don't really. I don't hear about any Bigfoot sightings around here. It seems like kind of a more up north thing, I guess, in my mind. I didn't think they'd be, in central Wisconsin where I am, there's a lot of little towns that break up the countryside, right? There's town after town, and then you'll have fields and woods and towns, and there's a lot of people around, and it's not like we're not off the grid here like you would be up on the Canadian border or Boundary Waters or any of that. So it really shocked me, like the proximity to that highway, which, it's a county highway. People travel it every day, and houses around, like he's right in the middle of all that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like I told you off air, I've had experiences where people would never think Bigfoot would be hanging out at. And I mean, I'm talking about like strips of woods and farms between like state highways and interstates. And it didn't make sense, but once I experienced it, I mean, it opened up a whole new realm in my mind, and it just confirmed to me that these things can hide in plain sight and definitely avoid people. I mean, obviously there's still woods between these highways and interstates, but not a ton. I mean, definitely enough for like deer and turkey and for a person to hide, but still, I mean, you would think that they would only be like in the UP of Michigan or like North Minnesota, but if there's farmland around and there's still strips of woods, they can certainly be there. And yeah, I looked up the area on a map where you had your sighting, and there's definitely a ton of woods. I mean, it's easy to look at a map and say, oh, there's not enough woods until you're standing in there walking through it.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, right off of Highway kind of County C. There's a little town called Deerfield that's not far from there, but I Google Earth checked it on Google Earth too, as far close as I could get to. Like you said, it kind of all looks the same even when you zoom in on Google Earth. But when I looked at Google Earth and I kind of zoomed out and looked at that whole area, to the to the north where it was coming from, there's a lake. There's a small lake with like a county park that's not well known. I mean, I drive by there all the time. I never see people out there. Maybe some locals use it once in a while. He was coming from that kind of that lake and that county little park that's around the lake area. And then he was headed across the highway to where there's more farms and rural, homesteads. Like again, why wouldn't he be there? It's not a lot of people out there. It's a small little rural area.
Yeah, I agree with that. I have family members from Wisconsin, and they definitely don't believe in Bigfoot, but that's cool that you
Yeah,
came on the
it's
show.
incredible. Thank you. And thanks for having me. Yeah, I told a few friends that, you know, you get to kind of like some, in good fun mocking. Like I told a few friends, like, oh, come on. Like, oh, then why? And then a couple of people were like, well, why didn't you instead of grabbing for your gun, you should have had like everybody else would have got their phone out and recorded it to prove it. I'm like, you don't understand. Like I was frozen in fear. I mean, if I wasn't so frozen, I might have peed myself. Like it's just sheer terror of like, you can see the size of something, and when it's displeased with you, you realize it goes through your head really quickly. Like this thing could do whatever it wants to me right now. No one would hear a scream. Like you kind of process all that, or I did anyway. Like dang, like I just got to get out of this situation. It didn't even cross my mind to reach for my phone. In fact, I don't even remember if I left it in the truck or had it in my pocket. I don't remember. But it never in that situation where I was close to it. didn't even think, where's my phone? I thought, weapon, get the heck out of here. It's like, why didn't you record it? Like, come on, I'm just not, you can't change people's mind unless they really are open to it.
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, as a videographer, photographer, like I've missed a lot of shots. For example, like I used to try to self-film my bow hunts, and there's many times when a deer came out that I just couldn't move quick enough to get the camera ready, turn it on, and film it. There's a lot of times where something would happen. I would see a bunch of deer, and after the encounter, I would think, why the heck did I not film that? Like, I have a camera on me, and that's why I'm out here. Like, I didn't even think to film it, just because like when something happens unexpectedly, you're just so focused on it and you're trying to figure out what's going on. By the time it happens, it's like it's too late.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And if the game we're used to seeing and being around, like deer, whatever, even mountain lions, things like that, they can be as elusive as they can, or hard to capture the right moment. Based on the way how I saw this Bigfoot move, it surprises me that we see him at all, because it's almost mystical. Like, it just defies the laws of mechanical physics that we know of, like the way we move and our joints move. And it doesn't, there's something different about how they move. And that's just talking in our plane. Like, if you do believe in the paranormal side, they might have, a lot of people talk about them appearing and disappearing and reappearing. And I have no reason to refute that. Like, it didn't do that for me that I know of, but I'm open-minded to it, because there's a reason we don't have them getting hit on the side of the roads by semis and a body, and someone plunking one in the head and having a body. Like, there's a reason why they're eluding our ability to detect them and capture them. I don't know. Maybe you'll get to the bottom of it, Miguel.
Yeah, maybe somebody will, anyways. And I definitely understand how you feel. I've seen these things too. Either you encountered one of the rarest creatures in North America, or you encountered a supernatural being. Either way you lean, it's definitely strange, and it's mind boggling.
It really is. Yeah, that's very well said, Miguel. That's exactly it. And which camp you're in, I'm kind of both, and I'm kind of thinking maybe there is more to them, but either way, yep, it's an incredible experience that I hear people say this all the time on podcasts. Like, it changes you. It changes how you view our plane of existence, how we interact with the woods and nature. Like, I mean, even like, I'm kind of surrounded by woods in my little house here, and I'm nervous just kind of like being out in my backyard. Like, you get a different sense of awareness of trying to have your senses up instead of down. At least I have, because you don't know what's lurking, and I don't want to be paranoid, but I think it's good to be tuned in my opinion.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know that these things are out there without a doubt. And maybe one day your kids or your grandkids will say, "Hey, tell us a story," and you can sit them on your lap and say, "Well, one day I encountered a Bigfoot."
Man, my kids are getting a little too old for my oldest is 22, and I told them all the really watered down version, like, that it happened, nowhere near the detail I just gave you, but they're kind of like, they're 50-50. Like, he definitely thinks he saw, you can see him kind of trying to, come on, Dad, but yeah, not trying to write it off completely. But yeah, I think someday probably I'll tell them more detail, and maybe we'll have a record of it here if you put this on a podcast. But hey, I was going to ask you too, do you want me to send you a picture of that screenshot I got from whatever was outside my girlfriend's vehicle? Would you like to see that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I can text it to you. I might even have the full video, and then I can do the kind of the still shots I have with the tint up. But I'd like to see what you see or think, because I'm not out there showing it around to everybody and trying to get labeled crazy. Like, it's just, I have it, I saved it, so I'd be happy to share them with you.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds excellent.
Cool.
And I would certainly like to check it out.
Okay, I'll do that, Miguel. I'll text you once we get off here.
Okay. Do you have anything else you would like to share? Any other strange experiences?
Nothing. I have gone on a couple of Dogman down in Elkhorn. I go down there. I've been down there about 4 times. There's a property owner down there who, if you know him, and he'll let you out there and kind of poke around. I've done that a few times, even at night. I was just on there last weekend, and honestly, like, it's his hot spot. Like, he has there's people down there with so much evidence, videos, pictures. And I've been down there 4 times and nothing. Not like, so here I am, like traveling, staying overnight, making it a point to go look for a cryptid. And we found some footprints, but he's got thousands of them that, they're in soft dirt. Could be a lot of things. They're abnormal. That is it. I saw some footprints in some dirt, but nothing. So it's like when I go out actually intentionally looking with a small group of people who know what they're doing, not even a peep. So it's kind of weird how it works.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This stuff will happen when you least expect it. Even if you're out there researching it, it's still going to happen when you're not ready.
Yep. Well, when I was there this past weekend, we had thermal, we had night vision, we had all kinds of, none of it mine, but there's some people that brought some. I spent hours looking through it, scanning spots where that, quote unquote hot spots. I didn't see a thing. So I think there is something to them revealing where and when and to whom they want to, possibly. And a lot of times it's when you least expect it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right, Corey, you did an excellent job at describing your encounter, and I mean, I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, and yeah, that's amazing, man.
I appreciate it, and I know I spoke kind of faster than I usually do. It's just honestly, my heart rate goes up when I put myself into getting those details and retelling them. I am a little shaky, like my voice gets tight. It's like reliving it. So hopefully I didn't speak too swiftly, but it's something to even kind of put your mind's eye back there. It still makes me nervous.
Oh yeah, I completely understand that. And anytime I talk about my encounters, my blood pressure definitely goes up.
Yep, mine too. Yeah. Well, hey, thanks so much for your time and listening to my story. And it's great talking to you. I love your show, so keep up the great work.
I appreciate it, man, and good luck out there in the forest. I hope you put a big buck down.
Thank you, Miguel. Talk to you later.
All right, I'll talk to you later. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. That was Corey from Wisconsin sharing his chilling encounter that proves not all things in the forest can be explained. If you've had a similar experience or witnessed something unexplainable, reach out and share your story. You could be featured on a future episode of Sasquatch Theory. I feel like the Sasquatch was roaming the forest looking for its next meal. I am also not throwing out the theory that this creature had a family group nearby and he may have been the last one to cross the road. It could explain why he was being extremely territorial, but you just never know. Maybe it was looking for a mate, and possibly my theory stands that the fall time is breeding season for the Sasquatch creatures, but also there's a supernatural side to it. But I feel like even if they do come from another dimension, they still have a physical component to their existence. Anyways, if you made it this far in the video, please be sure to comment, "I believe in Bigfoot," to let me know that you made it all the way to the end. If you guys can, like the video, subscribe to the channel, be sure to comment down below, and of course, if you have a Bigfoot encounter, feel free to reach out sometime. I'll catch you guys on the next one.